Tonight, the nation stands on the edge of a trembling fault line as a storm of political turmoil, institutional collapse, and moral corrosion unfolds with a force that millions can feel in their bones. What began as scattered concerns has now erupted into a heavy, suffocating atmosphere where citizens watch power shifting in ways they never imagined, leaving families frightened, workers abandoned, and the truth buried beneath layers of denial and manipulation. The emotional weight sweeping across this country is unlike anything seen in generations, pulling ordinary people into a crisis of trust as they witness leaders acting without restraint, without shame, and without the slightest regard for the people whose lives hang in the balance. In homes from coast to coast, viewers feel the tension tightening like a fist around the national conscience, as the actions of one man and the silence of those who enable him carve deep wounds into a nation already fighting to breathe. The pressure surrounding former President Donald Trump intensified sharply this week after a disastrous press appearance raised unsettling questions about both his physical state and his grip on the turmoil unfolding under his leadership. Yet even as he hides his deteriorating hand, the consequences of his decisions are impossible to conceal. Today's economic data hit the country like a punch to the chest. More than 30,000 private sector jobs lost, an economic shock that ordinary workers will carry home in the form of overdue bills, broken plans, and growing fear about a future that seems to be slipping out of their hands. Wall Street expected job growth. Instead, American families receive another blow, another reminder that those in power continue to profit while they suffer. For families already struggling under rising prices and dwindling savings, this latest blow felt like confirmation of a terrifying reality that the systems meant to protect them are instead working against them, rewarding collapse, celebrating loss, and ignoring the human cost that bleeds across every community. While the American workforce absorbs this painful news, Trump appears focused not on solutions, not on easing the suffering of millions, but on vanity projects and symbolic gestures designed to glorify himself at the nation's expense. Reports show the administration pushing forward with plans to build a golden ballroom after tearing down the East Wing, while also investing time into renaming the Institute of Peace after Trump himself, even as federal court declared the takeover unlawful. To many Americans, this feels like a dagger, an insult to principles of fairness, humility, and service. The Institute, meant to represent diplomacy and peace, now stands as a monument to the self-serving ambitions of a leader accused of fueling division, aiding foreign adversaries, and undermining global alliances. The emotional impact on viewers is profound, as they watch a place once dedicated to unity transformed into a symbol of ego and audacity, all while legal battles rage over the legitimacy of the regime's actions. Yet the most alarming development of all may be Trump's sweeping and controversial use of presidential pardon power, a wave of mercy not granted to the vulnerable, not to the wrongly convicted, not to those trapped by poverty or injustice, but to criminals whose crimes devastated communities and destroyed lives. The shock is deep and painful. One of the world's most notorious narco-terrorists, Juan Orlando Hernandez, responsible for funneling hundreds of tons of deadly drugs into the United States and contributing to tens of thousands of overdose deaths, now walks free because the administration intervened. Families who lost loved ones to addiction feel a new wave of despair, forced to watch the man responsible for poisoning their communities be rewarded with freedom. The emotional blow is devastating, raising questions about whose lives truly matter to those who wield power. But Hernandez is not the only one. A massive Ponzi scheme operator who stole life savings from 10,000 ordinary Americans, working people, retirees, parents who invested everything in hope for their children's future, now walks away after Trump slashes prison sentence down to May days. For many, this lands like betrayal. People who were robbed, humiliated, and thrown into financial ruin must now watch as the man who destroyed their stability is granted mercy that they themselves will never receive. The emotional pain is overwhelming. These victims will never recover what they lost, yet the man who stole from them is allowed to return to his life while they struggle to rebuild from ashes. And even more startling, Trump has extended pardons to figures once prosecuted by his own administration, men deeply entangled in corruption and misconduct. To millions of viewers, this feels like the dismantling of justice itself. Each pardon tears another thread from the fragile fabric holding public trust together. People who once believed the system had rules now watch leaders violate those rules without consequence. The sense of fear, helplessness, and abandonment is spreading fast. At the same time, troubling and racially charged remarks from Trump targeting the Somali community have left families angered, shaken, and afraid. The blanket labeling of an entire ethnic group as fraudulent has reopened wounds of discrimination and hostility, striking deeply at the dignity of innocent people who have built their lives, their families, and their futures in this country. These words do not impact statistics or polls. They impact human beings. Mothers, fathers, children who now feel mocked, singled out, and unsafe. They carry the weight of these comments everywhere they go, knowing the power behind the voice that targeted them. Meanwhile, inside the House of Representatives, the Republican Party appears to be imploding under the strain of internal warfare, backstabbing, and panic. Reports show chaos erupting behind closed doors as key members turn against Speaker Mike Johnson, casting doubt on the future of the party and sending shockwaves through the political landscape. Prominent figures like Nancy Mace are rumored to be on the brink of stepping away, while Elise Stefanik signals a readiness to seize the moment, looking to position herself as a potential successor. These fractures within the party reflect a deeper crisis, one rooted in fear, uncertainty, and growing awareness that voters across the country are shifting away from extremism after a staggering 14-point swing in the recent Tennessee special election. As panic ripples across the mega base, state-controlled media scramble to distract, deploying shameful and objectifying tactics, amplifying fabricated controversies to pull attention away from political collapse. The desperation is visible, the strategy transparent, and the emotional impact on viewers is dizzying. People who once relied on these platforms now feel manipulated, misled, and trapped in a spiral of confusion. But perhaps the most alarming revelation of all comes from inside national security institutions. A newly released Watchdog report reveals that former Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth engaged in the reckless sharing of sensitive military plans over unsecured messaging channels, placing American operations at grave risk. These weren't harmless conversations. There were discussions involving classified war plans related to Yemen, so sensitive that lawmakers were forced into secure facilities to even review them. Yet Hegseth refused interviews, refused to turn over his phone, and insisted that he possessed the authority to mentally declassify anything he wished. This is not merely irresponsible, it is dangerous. It places the lives of American service members at risk. It jeopardizes global stability. And it sends a message that accountability within the highest ranks of leadership has dissolved into nothing more than personal whim. Inside military leadership, the pressure has reached breaking point. A 4-star admiral, Alvin Halsey, reportedly pushed out after refusing to comply with orders he believed violated human rights and international law. His resignation delivers a chilling message to the world. Those who refuse to engage in questionable actions may be forced out, punished for protecting honor, ethics, and legality. The emotional toll of this reality is staggering. Families of military personnel now wonder what orders their loved ones may be forced to follow and what consequences they may face for choosing morality over obedience. And as all of this unfolds, a grim spotlight has fallen on the Trump family's business dealings. Companies tied to his children are spiraling into chaos, cryptocurrency ventures collapsing, stock values crashing, major firms being delisted, financial partners warned by regulators. These failures illustrate a long-standing pattern. Wherever this family invests, instability follows. Workers, investors, and ordinary people who trusted these ventures now face painful losses, adding yet another layer of suffering in a moment already heavy with national anxiety. Tonight, Americans find themselves staring into a storm without a clear path forward. They watch the erosion of norms, the manipulation of justice, the pardoning of criminals while victims scream for relief, the targeting of vulnerable communities, the collapse of institutional trust, and the reckless handling of military secrets. People are desperate for truth, for leadership, for dignity in a time when those values feel endangered. They wait for answers. They wait for someone to step forward. They wait for the moment when the country finally confronts the weight of everything happening behind the walls of power.